and welcome everybody to Unraveling the Unexplained. My name is Kat, and I am a longtime astral traveler and spirit consultant. This is my brother John.
How's it going?
He is a longtime fan of the creepy and the paranormal, and usually he picks out a video and scopes it out to have me react to it. But this week we have selected a video that neither of us have seen.
Yeah, I was looking around this week, found a video that I thought might have been pretty good, but further investigation showed the topic was actually a hoax, and I try to make sure that when I pick a topic, that it's not like a confirmed hoax or something that already has an explanation. We want to find stuff that still is kind of unexplained.
So at the very last minute, the video we had picked out got kind of ruined for us. So we are now doing a video that we picked out, but neither of us have actually seen before. So you get double reaction today. Let's jump into it.
The Great Pyramid in Giza has over 2 million blocks of stones, each of them weighing anywhere from 5 to 80 tons. Many of these stones were transported from Aswan, more than 500 miles away. The workmanship precision of the pyramid is so accurate that the four sides of the base have an average error of only 58 millimeters. To this day, engineers and scientists can't figure out how the Egyptians have done it, but one man claims to have found a secret. This story is about a megalithic site composed of blocks as heavy as 30 tons. Despite its magnitude, the entire structure was built and moved by one man. But just like the pyramids, no one today knows how the creator has achieved this wonder. When asked about his methods, no answer was given. He would take the secrets with him unto the afterlife. This is the story of the Coral Castle.
I assume called such because it's made out of coral? Or?
I think so. You gotta wonder, I mean, I don't know. You gotta wonder why, if somebody knew how to do something that was a secret or it was cool or there was like, why not?
Why not share it? Why take it with you to the grave?
Yeah, that makes me curious. Like, why?
I mean, who knows?
Trickery and hooey fooey, or I don't know. Let's find out. Let's
get some more information
Yeah,
first.
it makes
Too
me
much speculation.
The story of this episode begins in the Baltic region of Europe, in a country called Latvia. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the Baltic region consists of countries that have shorelines along the Baltic Sea, such as Denmark, Sweden, Estonia, Latvia, Finland, Lithuania, etc. Anyway, Latvia is where the man who built the Coral Castle, Edward Lidskelen, was born. Little is known of his childhood aside from the fact that he was born poor, read a lot as a boy, but received only a 4th grade level of formal education. He left school early to work with his father doing stonemasonry. In fact, his family comes from a line of stonemasons. His grandfather even owned a cemetery tombstone monument establishment in Latvia. Ed was on a course to having a normal life. At the age of 26, he got engaged to a girl named Agnes Scuffs. The day before the wedding, however, Agnes disappeared. She was 16 years old at the time she broke off the engagement with Ed, an act he apparently never recovered from, frequently referring to her as his Sweet 16. With a shattered heart, Ed moved to New York City in 1912. After struggling to find work on the East Coast, he moved to the Pacific Northwest to take part in the logging boom happening there at the time. The 1920 census data reveals that Ed resided in Reedsport, Oregon. Let's pause for a moment and review Ed's experience so far. We know that he worked with his father in stonemasonry, but now we see him work in a logging industry in Oregon. Logs, as we all know, are very heavy. We can therefore assume that Ed probably picked up a few techniques regarding levers and how to maneuver heavy objects during this experience. Anyway, in the winter of 1922, Ed contracted tuberculosis. In an effort to recover, he moved to the warmer climate of Florida, where he purchased an underdeveloped parcel of land in Florida City. This is where the strange journey of building a coral castle began. Florida City was lightly inhabited, but Ed did have neighbors, and these neighbors would begin to detect.
Are you saying that Florida begins to creep in the minute you move there?
Yeah, it's a well-known phenomenon that the second you move to Florida, you start to transmute into Florida man.
I see.
Strange behaviors from him. They would find Ed with huge blocks of stones, which he apparently had extracted out of the ground. Let me mention now that Ed was merely 5 feet tall and barely weighed 100 pounds. Yet somehow, this small man had managed to quarry these stones. When asked how it was done, Ed would give some elusive answer. The mystery would continue, however. Ed not only quarried these large stones, but also sculpted, shaped, and arranged them into functional components. It is important to state that these blocks weighed anywhere from 8 to 30 tons. How did this small man manage to move and shape these objects? For you to better appreciate this achievement, let me show you a clip from a group of engineers who attempted to replicate Ed's work using modern machinery.
Try an experiment to cut and lift a giant block of oolite. With diamond-tipped power saws, the cutting alone took several hours. The only way to break the block free, brute force. Then the test. Could they detect any unusual buoyancy in the rock itself? Using a 600 horsepower crane, could they lift the rock?
That was precarious.
Yeah. Heavy machinery, heavy block. Of course, this looks like it's from a while
After the
ago.
crane almost tipped over, they managed to drag the block a few yards. What modern equipment would it take to duplicate Coral Castle?
It couldn't be done.
Charles Veloy's comments.
Not with a modern equipment. I wouldn't cut more than 4 foot long and 32 inches wide and 7 or 8 foot long. That's the most I'll cut. And you see the struggle I have getting it out with that machine.
What you just saw was the quarrying of just one block. But please remember, Ed did not single-handedly quarry several stones. He shaped, moved, and arranged them into impressive combinations. One example of such impressive combination is a revolving door at the Coral Castle. Although the entrance stone weighs 9 tons, Ed built it in a way that anyone, even a child, can push this door open.
That's ridiculous.
I mean,
Children
I'm
love to
impressed.
visit Coral
Yeah.
Castle. They instinctively respond to the childlike sense of play, which is so magnificently sculpted here.
When one of the bearings gave out in 2004, engineers tried to assemble it the way Ed had previously built it, but failed. This entrance is now out of commission. Anyway, back to the story. Neighbors were fascinated by these huge stones Ed had erected, and they were dying to know how he accomplished such a feat. Getting nothing but elusive answers from Ed, they resorted to spying on him. Except on rare
I would
occasions,
too.
Ed
Privacy.
only worked at night. Despite the darkness, Ed would always somehow sense when he was being observed and would promptly stop working until the unwelcome observer would give up and leave. Ed spent 28 years building the Coral Castle. During this entire period, no one saw how this marvel was built. Not even a single leak exists out there, and trust me, I have looked. When Ed opened the Coral Castle to the public, admission to the park was 10 cents. At the time, the space was not called the Coral Castle, but Rock Gate Park. Here is an original clip of visitors touring the park.
These films are not the best quality, but they are the only known movies of Ed Leedskalnin. They were discovered in 1980 in the back of a closet.
Yeah, rocking chair.
Yeah, that's nice.
They reveal the Ed that most visitors knew. Animated, friendly, a simple man.
Ed was a very private person. In 1936, he heard of a real estate development plan for his area, which would, of course, bring more people. This news pushed Ed to do something spectacular. Over the course of 3 years, Ed moved his entire castle 10 miles north to Homestead, Florida, its current location today. How Ed moved the whole castle is not exactly clear. It is said that he had hired a truck driver to deliver the stones to his new location. However, Ed never let the driver see how he loaded the stones into the truck. He would insist that the driver be away during that process, every time. Again, I find this popular narrative hard to believe. How can a driver do a job over the course of 3 years, yet not see Ed load the truck at least once? And can a truck from the 1930s even carry 25-ton stones? A large truck today can carry about 14 tons. This doesn't add up, but share your thoughts in the comment section.
Well, I mean, clearly the
After
castle was
completely
still
moving his
moved.
castle in 1939, Ed expanded its structures and even added astrological components that could tell time based on the movement of the earth. He would also charge 25 cents per visit. Time and time again, amazed visitors would ask him, "How did you do it?" Ed would answer, "I understand the laws of weights and leverage, and I know the secrets of the people who built the pyramids." Aside from his book on magnetism, that statement would be the most the public would receive from Ed. In December 1951, Ed became ill. He took a bus to Jackson Memorial Hospital and died 3 days later in his sleep, taking with him the secrets of the pyramid apparently. No one still knows how Ed built the Coral Castle. When his home was searched after he died, investigators found a life savings of $3,500, a treasure map, and a note that said, "The secrets to the universe is 178-144-321. Is this gibberish or a clue to a real mystery? You tell me. The Coral Castle is still open for visit. Those of you who want to go see the mystery for yourself can save this location using the Cityscape app. There are many speculations regarding how Ed built the Coral Castle. Many have even tried to replicate Ed's work, from professional scientists, the Army Corps of Engineers, and Coral Castle enthusiasts with a mechanical aptitude. Nothing definitive has been found from these investigations, however. Some people have crossed Ed's story with the metaphysical, saying that he used sound or magnetic levitation using the meridian lines. Others still claim that it is the work of aliens. The story of Coral Castle was even featured on the show Ancient Aliens. The story of Ed has proved that hindsight is not always 20/20. For even today, we are still puzzled on how this was achieved. Was Ed a magician or an engineer far ahead of his time? I guess we'll never know. However, I do think the lesson Ed was trying to teach is for us to cultivate the magician within. The engineer and mystic both use laws that others do not know. The way these gifted souls obtain these secrets was through initiation. By that, I do not mean some bizarre ritual, but persistent hard work in mastering a craft. It might take 5, 10, or even 20 years, but after pressing on, nature finally reveals her secret. So cultivate the magician in you by mastering a craft, and when nature finds you worthy of her secrets, she will reveal them to you. See you next time.
Thanks, Alan. Well done, sir.
Yes.
We will link this video and the creator in the description. Please go check them out. Support the original channel. This is a super cool video. I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones on there. It was one we totally picked at random because we didn't have one this week.
But interesting thoughts. How?
Right? My God, like what a strange thing. And I'm intrigued. I'm about to run this video back and write down those numbers. What are those? The mystery of the universe is 148. I don't know. I'm about to look that up and figure out.
Pretty sure plenty of people probably tried to use those as lotto numbers.
I'm sure lotto numbers, longitude numbers, something.
All right, so I almost wish I could do a little bit more investigation before I start doing random ass speculation. But
Just initial reaction thoughts. I know you're usually the one who watches the videos first, so you have more time to put your thoughts together.
well, it's
on
like
it.
I always try to go for the practical first before, like, eliminate what makes sense practically before I delve into anything a bit more,
For sure.
out there. So my first thought is like, okay, do we know for sure that he quarried those? Because they talk a lot about like, oh, he had to move them and stuff. But I thought to myself was like, the easiest way to do it would be that you didn't move them at all. You found a sufficient number. You found a location that had all the stone you needed, and then like a sculptor sculpting around clay, you just made what you needed to make without actually moving it. But I don't know how much sense that actually makes with what is actually there.
It seems to me that it wasn't dug down, like it's not do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the rocks were brought in and placed. It wasn't dug down in or whatever,
yeah.
carved out of
Yeah,
something.
like it definitely has too much of the look of something that was constructed and put together by moving the blocks.
Well,
But
and I
my
think
first thought was like maybe it was like he found enough of it in the right locations that he could carve it without having to move them
well, and then it says pretty specifically that he moved the entire structure from one place to
to
another.
another and
So
got very cagey with the driver apparently about not he was apparently very cagey about just anybody observing what he was doing, which is strange in and of itself, but
the only thought that I have on that as to why you wouldn't want to tell people what you were doing is if what you were doing could be misconstrued. There's a lot of, especially back in those days, especially, but even still today, there's a lot of very religious individuals. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So if what you were doing could be misconstrued as something occult or witchcrafty looking, you
you don't
might
want to
be,
freak
yeah,
out
you may
people.
be kind of cagey about it, trying to explain it to people who have, a bad tendency of lynching
Yeah.
folks. You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
That's the only thing I can figure.
focusing on the a more mundane possibility, if he was trying to create a sensational looking thing and create mystery around how he did it, could he have hired people, brought them in, and kept that fact hidden? That seems unlikely because there were enough people observing him at times he couldn't have controlled that I don't think he could have had a crew and equipment large enough to do that without it being noticed. Like, that would have
Yeah.
been really hard to pull off.
Right. And, if you're trying to keep a secret, the more people involved in your secret, the
Yeah,
harder it is to keep. I also find that kind of like usually when you're creating sensationalism around something, it's because you're looking to gain a ton of profit off of it. But the dude was charging 25
yeah.
cents and died with $3,500.
Again, that is, again, sort of weird, like, even for back then money, that's not necessarily a lot.
No,
And
it
it's not
seemed
like
more
he
like he wanted people to enjoy
and
it.
it didn't sound like he was rich in the first place, so, like,
Mm-mm.
would he have even had the resources to hire the kind of people and manpower and equipment you'd need to get all that done?
Right.
So, it does seem very much like there was something else going
It
on,
feels to me like somebody who figured out how to do something neato and wanted to use it to express and create and have other people
but
enjoy
didn't
it
wanna have the entire world coming down on him because of
and
it.
didn't want to be judged for whatever it was that was actually the hocus pocus behind it.
Yeah, I mean, his whole phrase of, "I've discovered the secret of, like, weight and leverage." That's odd. I mean, what how does weight and leverage have a secret?
He figured out, that's what he said. I figured out how they built the pyramids. I figured out what the Egyptians were doing with how they were moving blocks.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really work out
What that would
what
be.
that would be, like, no amount of secrets of weight and leverage is going to make something way less than it needs to be, and it's not gonna make you capable of moving shit that heavy machinery can't do. So there would have to be something outside of the seen knowledge of physics.
Yeah, some of the theories for it that you said have to do with manipulating sound waves, and some of it has to do with like electromagnetic fields is what they were talking about. Some of the theory he didn't go into in depth at all what any of
Yeah.
the actual theories about it are, so it's kind of hard to
I'm sure there's all sorts of theories about it, but whatever
speculate.
theories that however you wanna break it down, it would essentially have to come down to the man somehow managing to make that weight less weight, and
Mhm.
make it so you take that block and you just move it like it doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah. He figured out how to freaking levitate blocks, dude.
Yeah,
The dude figured out how to levitate blocks. That's what
to
it
make
sounds like.
matter not have the same mass or gravity
Uh-huh.
not have the same effect.
Mhm.
Something that would be
And
very
create a force field around it maybe that actually has, if you can trap it inside of, oh god, this just came through. So, if you can trap it inside a field and that field has less density, then you're just moving the field and not the block. The block is trapped in an alternate space. Do you know what I mean?
I think so. In your experience, what could generate that? Like, how would you even go about it?
Oh my god, you would have, I mean...
Because it's just, I'm trying to wonder if this is something mental that he's doing, if this is a matter of finding the right material, you put it around the right materials and the right configuration, and that would create the field.
I don't know of any materials that would produce that effect. It would have to be an energy amplifying effect, right? Like, you would have to use a constant, you would have to, if you were doing it like that, it would have to be something that produced a concentrated energy field that actually is lifting,
Yeah.
doing the heavy lifting for you, literally. But I
Because
don't know of anything that would produce that kind of an effect.
like from what I understand, most of your experience, Kate, has to deal with the non-material.
Right.
Your astral projections and the dreams and the various interactions with the other side. Very little of what
In other dimensions,
yeah, very
yeah.
little with what you experience has anything to do with generating physical effects around you, except
Right.
for that one story you told me about the book that you found on your walk.
Oh yeah, manifesting the book.
Is it conceivable that some level of manifesting would allow you to, like, I want to manifest this in this shape in that position? He's not so much physically moving things as he just carves the
He's
shape he
literally
wants.
just creating them with his mind.
Well, I think maybe he carves the shapes he wants, and then he somehow heavily imagines or manifests the shape he's carved becoming the moving to the location he wants. Would that even be possible?
Theoretically, I mean, okay, so based on that kind of a theory, like world construction theory, the reality that we're creating around ourselves all the
Yeah,
time. So and it's possible the reason that it's okay, so it's possible that the reason that he wanted to work alone is because it literally legitimately doesn't work in front of other
that's
people.
exactly the reason I was asking, because he very much didn't want to be observed.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Okay.
like, could it be possible to construct your own reality that way when you're
Yeah.
not being looked
Yeah.
at?
So, and again, when I manifested that book out of thin air, it was completely by myself on an empty street. So, in brief, the way psychic energy fields, the reason this is a playground reality is we're all communicating with each other psychically in some kind of an agreement. You and I agree that this laptop is a laptop, that the
Hmm.
chairs we're sitting in are here. Psychically, we agree on what our reality does. If you were not having any other psychic influence in your vicinity helping to create that reality, a shared idea of what reality was, could you create anything you wanted? Well, yeah, we do that in our dream states. When we're alone with our energy in a dream state, in a non physical reality, we literally construct and do anything the psyche wants to do. Now, theoretically, is that possible in physical reality? I think it's possible. Like I said, I've manifested a physical object on a couple of occasions, but nothing intentional like that. It was all, it wasn't like I was
Not with a
focusing.
specific plan in mind.
Exactly. It wasn't with a specific plan in mind or anything. But
But maybe that's what he's talking about the secrets of weight and leverage. He's not talking about the weight of mass or the leverage of a lever. He's talking about the weight of reality and the leverage of one's manifestation.
right, and I don't know if he would have termed it that way, but it is a possible
Well, I
explanation
mean, he
as
was a
to...
stonemason. Maybe he always thought in those terms, even when the stuff he's talking about isn't strictly masonry
Yeah. So that's a possible reason why he didn't want anyone else observing him, is because literally it wouldn't work if other people were
or
observing him.
watching.
And how do you explain that? It sounds crazy to say it. Oh yeah, I can make things manifest, but I just can't show you. You know what I mean?
It
Like
does
that.
kind of have that tinge of BS to
Exactly.
it.
It sounds like a bunch of BS. So it would be very difficult to explain to other people. And if you could conjure stones out of thin air, you probably get tracked down and strung up to a tree or something. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
And in my mind, it's like less conjuring stones out of thin air, more like he's found the stones he wants, he carves them into the shapes he wants, and then just through that whole manifesting, maybe he figured out how to do it somehow. He then manifests and imagines those stones going into the configuration he wants after he's already carved them in the
Hmm.
place he found them.
And maybe he did find himself some energy amplifier or some way to amplify his own energy in order to do that effectively.
Or he had help from someone or something.
Yeah, like he learned it from a download, or he got the information from elsewhere. Misha. Sorry, our cat is not happy with us right now.
She wants attention.
Misha wants attention and she wants it now. But it's super interesting to think about, and it's too bad he went to his grave with that information.
Yeah.
Because he was making something work for him for sure.
I mean, whatever the truth may be, it's a fascinating looking place, and if we ever find ourselves in Florida again, we should check it out.
Oh, definitely go check that out the next time I'm down there. And like I said, we will link that video in the description. Check that out. Like and subscribe if you want to check out more of us. We upload every week. If you have ideas of videos or topics that you'd like for us to cover, leave those in the comments. Let us know. Let us know if you think we're crazy, if you think we may be onto something. And we will see you guys later.
Have a good evening.
Bye.